Chapter 1. Am I in Heaven? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Beep beep beep. The cardiac monitor alarmed as Serena Chen's heart rate turned 0, signaling her death. She died with a smile on her slightly wrinkled but elegant face, her hand being held by her daughter, while sobbing suddenly filled the room. Serena died at the age of 70.2. She lived a decent and happy life. Since birth, her life has been quite easy. She was born with a silver spoon. Her loving parents owned real estate properties where they received more than enough income from rentals. When she became an adult and graduated from college, she met the love of her life, who then became her boyfriend. At the same time, she went to graduate school and got some decent jobs which she could always afford to lose. After a few years, her boyfriend became her husband. He was handsome, kind, and hard-working, while she, on the other hand, was a little lazy. Hating her 9-to-5 office job, she simply decided to resign and work for her parents to collect rent. When her daughter was born, she had her family help her in raising her up. When her daughter grew up and got married, she was given 2 sweet grandchildren. To summarize it, when she was born she had her parents, when her parents were gone, she had her husband and inheritance, when her husband was gone, she had her child. All her life, she always had someone to support her, making her life pretty easy, devoid of too much responsibility. So when the time came, she had no regrets in life, albeit she had some fantasies. Since her husband's death, her favorite pastime was reading romance novels and watching dramas from time to time. Before her death, the last novel she read was A Cinderella Story in Victorian fantasy era. Given that she only liked reading rebirth and transmigration stories as of late, the only reason she finished reading said novel was because her granddaughter wrote it. Her granddaughter, Rianne, was addicted to shoujo mangas like Boys Over Flowers, Ouran High School Host Club, etc., which became the inspiration of her novel. So it's not surprising that the novel was about the daughter of an impoverished baron who, despite being born from an impoverished noble house and ostracized in society, reached the pinnacle of life. Ugh! Serena woke up with a start. She knew that she just died in the hospital, but now she was seeing an intricately carved ceiling. Perhaps she just ascended to heaven. But then again, why was she so thirsty? She rose to sit on the bed and was surprised to see her pale and smooth hands. Before she could familiarize herself to the situation, a sound of knocking was heard, so she turned her head to her left. She then saw a young girl in a maid's outfit entering a wooden door. "Good morning, my lady, pardon the intrusion, but the Duchess asked me to see if you're already prepared for school." Serena was confused, but then proceeded to stand from the bed. She turned to look around the room and saw a vanity table. She went to sit on the chair in front of the table to look at herself in the mirror. What she saw almost made her jaw drop. A young lady who looks about the age of 18 was staring at her, hair golden like the sun, deep-set eyes having the color of the sea, nose thin with high bridge, lips slightly pouty with a tinge of pink, and her skin, rosy white. Did she just hit jackpot for bringing out a large water tank when God decided to shower the world with beauty? If she had this beauty when she was alive, certainly, beauties like Audrey Hepburn and company will be put to shame. She had to stop herself from giggling like a maniac, knowing a maid was just at the door. Seeing that her lady was just sitting in front of the vanity doing nothing, the maid asked, "My lady, shall I help you in preparing?" Serena looked at the maid and started thinking. Okay, so, did I just transmigrate? I know this sounds crazy, but anyway, I'm already dead. Perhaps I'm just living in my own fantasy. I guess the best thing to do is just go with the flow and see how things will go. So Serena smiled to the maid and said, "Yes, please do." The maid then proceeded to open another door in the room while Serena stood up from the chair to look around. The room was large. It has beautifully designed hardwood floor with a golden upholstered bed. It was well lit, the walls had sconces and are of bright salmon color, while the ceiling was intricately carved with a chandelier. Aside from the vanity table, there were also other furniture in the bedroom, such as nightstands with lamps on top, a daybed, coffee table with nice-looking accent chairs and a study table. She's happy to note that, although the room looks like something from a Victorian era, it was somewhat modern. After scrutinizing the bedroom, she went out to the balcony. Looking below, there was a manicured garden which covers a large expanse of land. Okay, pause, am I in Versailles? Because it seems like my backyard is the Versailles garden. She went back inside the room and then entered the room to where the maid was. The room was a walk-in closet filled with beautiful dresses. It has a full-length mirror and another vanity table. At the other end there was another open door which leads straight to the bathroom. Upon entering the bathroom, she noticed that there were 4 running faucets surrounding a circularly shaped bathtub which is already filled. The maid poured what she assumed was bath oil. "My lady, the bath is ready. Shall I now help you to bath?" "No need, just kindly prepare the clothes I should be wearing today." "Yes, my lady, then I shall wait for you outside." The maid then went out of the bathroom. Wow, just wow, if I had my doubts earlier, then now I guess it's safe to say that I am indeed in heaven. Serena thought as she removed her clothes. Look at my room, my house, my bathroom, and most of all, look at these melons. She was delighted to know that aside from her beautiful face and her huge mansion, she was also gifted with a seductive body. She even held her globes to check if they're real. It seems like she finally graduated from B.Cup to A.C.Cup. In her last life, she was gifted with above-average looks and body. But now, she has good-sized chest and rear with very small waist. After her bath, donning a fluffy towel, she brushed her pearly white teeth while observing the white marbled bathroom. She noticed that everything looks so high-tech. Even the toilet seat looks like that of the ones found in Japan. There is also a shower room. All in all, Serena felt like she lives in a 5-star luxury hotel. Re-entering her walk-in closet, she saw that the maid was still there. She then sat on the vanity while the maid removed the towel from her hair and started to blow-dry it with a hair dryer. Serena looked at the mirror and observed the maid. She looks like someone in her mid-20s with brown hair and eyes. She looks kind, and her actions in taking care of her so far were careful. Aside from that, she doesn't know why, but it seems like she looks somewhat familiar. "Sorry to ask this, but, what is your name again?" Serena asked. A little bit of confusion can be seen on the maid's face. She has no idea why her ladyship is asking for her name when she has already been serving her for almost a year. However, despite the strangeness, she still answered and elaborated. "My lady, my name is Beatrice, the daughter of your previous nanny Linda. I have been serving the ducal house for almost a year now." Beatrice, it seems like I heard that name before. Serena contemplated. Actually, now that I think of it, it seems like everything I'm seeing is somewhat familiar. It's like I've read of them somewhere, but I can't remember where. "My lady, how do you like me to style your hair?" Beatrice asked after drying her hair. "Where's my clothes? Let me wear them first before I decide." Beatrice presented 2 dresses for Serena to choose from. It seems like there is no school uniform. The dresses were both beautiful and quite luxurious for school wear. Then again, she is a daughter of a duke, though she doesn't even know her name yet. Both were Victorian era-like dresses. Perhaps that's the get up here, she thought. The first was a white 3/4 sleeve dress with dark pink floral prints and ribbons, while the second was an off-shoulder blush pink dress with white lace and pearls. Serena chose the pink dress due to the fact that it shows more skin. Well, what's the use of her beauty without showing it, right? After getting dressed with the help of Beatrice, she decided to have her hair braided and curled. In her past life, one of the guilty pleasures Serena has is her love for beauty. Now that she herself became the ultimate beauty, how can she not enjoy it to the fullest? Thus, after their preparation, she really looks like a goddess who descended on earth. "My lady Serena, you have always been beautiful, but today, you are even more beautiful. His Highness Prince Geoffrey, your fiancé, will not know what hit him," Beatrice exclaimed. Serena just smiled and looked at the mirror, very much satisfied and mesmerized by her own beauty. It is only 10 seconds after that it dawned to her what the maid, Beatrice, said. Daughter of a duke. Name same as hers. With a maid named Beatrice, and a crown prince fiancé named Geoffrey. Haha. Don't tell me I transmigrated to my granddaughter's novel as the villainess. Chapter 2. Backstory of the villainess. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the initial shock waned, Serena started grinning in front of the mirror while her head started to recall details from the novel. If she recalls correctly, Serena Lillian Maxwell's character is indeed the villainess in the story. She even remembers that she scolded her granddaughter for using her name but quickly forgave her because of the stats given to said character. Serena is the most beautiful lady in the Empire. Not only that, she is the only biological daughter of Duke Simon Maxwell. The Duke and the Duchess have always wanted a child, but sadly, for many years they weren't given any. Thus, they opted to adopt one of their distant relatives' son when he was just about 3 months old and named him Leonard Alphonse Maxwell to succeed the duchy. However, just 5 months after the adoption, the Duchess was found pregnant. There was suddenly an uproar in the duchy, for if the child born is male, they will have to return Leonard to his family to avoid any succession feud. The Duke and Duchess both prayed for a baby girl, not only because of consideration for Leonard, but also because they truly wanted a daughter to spoil. It is no exaggeration to say that Duke Simon and Duchess Celine are the most beautiful lovebirds in the whole kingdom of Windsor. Imagine how their biological child will look like. Thus, when the baby was born and turned out to be a girl, the couple cried tears of joy and thanked all the gods in heaven. They know that having another child is next to impossible, given that the couple were already in their late 30s and the difficulty of pregnancy for the Duchess. They named her Serena Lillian Maxwell, Serena, for when she was born she was so tranquil and serene, Lillian because this daughter of theirs represent everything that is innocent, pure and beautiful in their eyes. As expected, Serena was treated as the pearl in the palm of their hands. You can only imagine how heavenly her childhood was. With her parents, she only has to look at an object for 3 seconds, then it will immediately be given to her. When she started learning, even when her performance was mediocre at best, they will tell her that she is the most talented in the world. And when she smiles, her parents will tell her that their darling baby is the most beautiful child in the whole universe. To put it nicely, she grew up to be innocent in the ways of the world. To put it bluntly, she became a stupid airhead who was quite egocentric. So how do you expect her to assimilate? And she went to the school for nobility at the age of 18. Well, she simply expected things to turn out as they always did. Initially, all her classmates treated her with respect and awe. But further into her schooling, she realized that she does not always get the best score, and although she is the most beautiful, she is not the most liked. 18 is the age of romance for most of the nobility. When she entered school, she expected to have a myriad of admirers, but no one ever approached her. She thought that the reason should be because she already has the crown prince as her fiancé, but surprise surprise. Her fiancé turned out to have someone else in his heart. In fact, not only him, but it seems like all high-spec guys like the same lady. Said lady was the female lead in the novel, the daughter of the impoverished Baron Edward, Emily Jean Evans. Emily was depicted as a pretty and smart lady. She has chestnut brown hair, large green eyes, small button nose, rosy cheeks and pink lips. Her skin, although not that white, was fair. She always get the highest grade in their year and was righteous in all of her actions. She was strong-willed with a slight hero complex. In short, she became the girl guys love to love, and girls love to hate. Meanwhile, Serena could not accept the fact that she became a girl standing behind someone's shadow. So she tried to reflect on what she might be doing wrong. The first thing she thought of was that in one of the books she read, it was said that smiling at people makes one look kind and friendly. Serena's parents told her to not just give her smiles to anyone. Well, perhaps that is one thing that she should change. However, Serena's face is unlike that of any normal girl. Her smile looks coquettish with her two vortexes, and although it attracted a lot of bees to the honey, it made her look too much of a seductress. Things would have been alright if that ended there, but given her school performance, she was directly labeled as the typical dumb blonde bimbo in the campus. Serena tried her best to excel in school, tried being friendly, tried being nice to everyone, albeit, her description of nice and friendly were hugely disproportioned to what was normal. Slowly but surely, she realized the weight of the Duke's name and her status in society. So when things did not turn out the way she wanted them to despite her efforts, it led to her blackening. And the target of her ire became Emily Evans. You can probably already guess what happened next. Just like any villainous trope, Serena became the overly jealous, egocentric, overindulged, spoiled brat. This of course, only highlighted the goodness of our female lead, Emily, to the eyes of everyone. Later on, Jeffrey annulled his engagement to Serena and married Emily to start living happily ever after. So what happened to Serena? After everything, she was sent back to their dukedom, a little crazy and disillusioned because she cannot accept the story of what her life became. The Duke and the Duchess were very much saddened but knew in their hearts that it was their fault that Serena became that way. They died with heartbreak, while the adopted brother, Leonard Alphonse Maxwell, became the new Duke. At the age of 7, Leonard was sent to Allegheny for schooling. There, he met and became good friends with their crown prince, Geoffrey William, the only son of the Duke of Suffolk, Charlton Heinrich Daniel, and the second Prince of Allegheny, Kylo Lewis. During his first 5 years in the boarding school, he got to return home during summer and winter. While the next 6 years only let him return during summer break. When he was in their home for vacation, he never got to spend too much time with his sister due to their difference in gender and the fact that he is an adopted son. Male children of nobles, specifically those with the stature of count above, were sent to Allegheny School for young leaders at the age of 7. They stay there for 11 years to learn skills and knowledge necessary for leading their territory. After that, they go to Windsor School for nobles at the age of 18 to assimilate themselves to society, gain mastery of their skills and knowledge, and for some to find themselves a wife. Female children, on the other hand, were homeschooled. This means that the only mastery required of them was etiquette, while other skills and knowledge, though encouraged, were only secondary. When they reach the age of 18, they are sent to Windsor School for nobles with not much expectations other than finding a suitable husband. Leonard's upbringing was a bit unconventional. At a young age, his shoulders were already burdened with much expectations due to the fact that he is the sole heir to the dukedom despite his lineage. With this knowledge, he strived to do his best to deserve his position. There was a difference on how he was treated in comparison to Serena. Serena was the real princess while he was just merely a pauper. When he was younger, his adoptive parents only asked him for one thing in exchange of him inheriting the dukedom, that is to ensure Serena's well-being. Leonard was not an ingrate. During the time that he and Serena were in Windsor School of Nobles, he tried to protect her the best that he can. If not, Serena will not return home with only a mental illness, which was of her own doing, after everything that she did. Sadly, he cannot control the heart of a monarch, and his power as the heir of a duke in comparison to the crown prince is limited to merely just that of a sidekick. Upon his ascension as a duke, he took care of his mentally deranged sister the best that he can. Not much was really said after that part in the novel. Serena's granddaughter, Rianne, only left Serena's ending with that. Thankfully, Rianne is a normal kid living in a peaceful 21st century. Serena can't imagine herself living in a fantasy world with gore and violence. "My lady, shall we join the Duke and Duchess for breakfast?" Serena looked one more time at her image reflected in the mirror. So what if I'm the villainess? I read and watched too many transmigration and rebirth novels/dramas in my life to not know that I can always change my fate. With this face and my wits, who is to say that I will just become the shadow behind the school flower? Besides, I'm not really interested with that, my only desire is to fulfill my fantasy. I loved my husband truly, but this is now my chance to do what I never got to do. On any normal occasion, I would choose to live my life the way I did, but this is a fantasy world. I'm meant to fulfill my every fantasy here. So to hell with the story. I just want to have a number of boyfriends to taste before getting married. Serena smirked at herself in the mirror. Alright, let's go to the dining hall. Beatrice was slightly worried about her lady acting a bit strangely. But who is she to question her? She is but a maid in this dukedom. Chapter 3. Leaving the dukedom. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Arriving at the dining hall, Serena first noticed how large the table was. It was meant for at least 24 people. Seated at the head chair was who, she assumed must be her father. Duke Simon looked like a man in his early 40s rather than his actual age of mid-50s. Although seated, one can tell that he was tall and well-proportioned. His dark blonde hair was brushed back while his 3-day stubble beard was the most attractive she has ever seen, considering she likes clean-shaven men. His eyes were bluish-gray, his nose tall. He looks like someone who just came out of a fashion magazine. On his left is who she assumed must be her mother, Duchess Celine. Her golden brown hair was tied in a braided bun and her hooded hazel eyes were charming. She looks elegant and very beautiful. Perhaps if there's a Mrs. Universe here, she will surely win. In front of the Duchess should be the adopted son Leonard. With his back facing Serena, what she can tell so far is that his broad shoulders look very sexy. Oh, Serena, you're here. Come take your sit, Duchess Celine called her as she continued. Wow, what did you do today to look like a blooming flower, my dear? I can already imagine the sound of breaking hearts. Don't you think so, Mon? She asked as she looked at her husband. Duke Simon turned to look at his daughter and quickly frowned. Although I admit that you are very beautiful today, don't you think that your dress is a bit inappropriate? What are you saying, Mon? What inappropriate? My daughter is a beauty and there's no harm in showing that. I bet that if you did not engage her to the crown prince, after her first day of school, suitors will be lining our duchy. Serena smiled, blushing slightly because of the praise and moved to sit beside her mother as she started observing Leonard, who acknowledged her with a nod then continued eating. Leonard's hair is the shade of sunflower, he has fine facial features, downturned icy blue eyes, high-bridged nose and thin red lips. His complexion is of warm ivory. Although he is only an adopted son, one cannot immediately say so. He is very handsome indeed, really deserving a main character role. Serena, I highly suggest that you avoid smiling like that in school. Your smiles should not be simply given to anyone. The Duke advised. The Duchess simply rolled her eyes. Fathers and their overprotectiveness. Dear, the servants have already prepared all your needs for school. I can't believe that you shall be living there and can only come back after a year. I have never experienced having you separated from me for so long, the Duchess continued as she wiped drops of tears from the corner of her eyes. Leonard, you better look after your sister, you know how precious she is to us. The Duke kept his silence, but obviously, he was also reluctant to part with his little princess. During her younger years, he showered her with hugs and kisses. But as she grew older, the Duke can't do that because of propriety. After breakfast, the family of 4 stood up from the table and proceeded to the main entrance. The Duke walked with Leonard beside him, while the Duchess walked with Serena with their arms looped. 3 horse-drawn carriages were already waiting for them. The middle one is white in color with gold accents. That should be the carriage the siblings will ride on. The other 2 were carrying their luggage, guards and servants. Take care of yourselves and write to us from time to time. We shall visit our estate in the capital next month and pay you both a call once we arrive. The Duke said. Yes, father, Leonard and Serena replied at the same time. I shall miss you, my dear, the Duchess told Serena as she hugged her tightly. I shall miss you too, mother, the Duchess let her go, then proceeded to hug Leonard. I shall miss you, take care of your sister, yes mother, I shall miss you too. Leonard replied, hunching slightly as he hugged her back. Serena then hugged the Duke. I shall miss you, father. Well, might as well give him a reward for letting me live a luxurious life in this lifetime. The Duke blushed and awkwardly tapped her back. I will miss you too. If you encounter any difficulty, just tell Leonard, or better yet, just write to me and I will personally resolve it. Duke, don't you know why your daughter became a black and villainess? Just look at that attitude, Serena thought as she grinned. The coachman of the white carriage opened its door then bowed at the side, indicating them to ride it. Leonard walked towards the carriage and then offered Serena his hand to support her and let her enter first. What a gentleman, Serena thought as she placed her hand on his palm. Serena took the seat at the rear facing the horses while Leonard took the seat in front of her. The door was shut by the coachman, and soon after they started moving. Serena then took it upon herself to look outside the window, smiling while waving goodbye to her parents. The Duke and the Duchess waved back. It is only after the carriages cannot be seen when the Duchess faced her husband. She must be really excited for school to smile a lot like that, the Duchess told her husband as she started wiping her tears. Our daughter has grown up. The Duke smiled at his wife slightly as he held her in his arms. TBC. Chapter 4. Is this what you call brother complex? You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the carriage exited the gates of their ducal estate, Serena started observing Leonard who had his eyes closed. Earlier, she noticed that he was slightly muscular and tall, with her only reaching his chin. He was wearing a gray frock coat, slim fit, seamed at the waist falling to his mid-thigh. His vest was of lighter shade of gray made of silk. He was also wearing a fancy royal blue ascot with silver paisley pattern. His trousers matched the color of his coat. He truly looked like a rich heir in a Victorian Regency drama. Serena continued observing the hot specimen in front of her. If only he is not her adoptive brother with a golden thigh she can always hug, no doubt that he will be on top of the list of her prospective boyfriends. Come to think of it, they are not really related by blood, unless you count the teeny-weeny part of them being distant relatives. Also, they were never close as siblings, add to it the fact that she is a transmigrator who do not have any sisterly love for him. Also, incest so long as there's no real blood relation is one of her fantasies after reading the novel Beware of the Brothers. However, if she decided to pursue that path, it will be game over for her. It's either marriage automatically, or she doesn't even want to think of other results. She also thinks that she can always leave this route for last. It is said in the novel that Leonard will take responsibility for her no matter what. But that does not mean that this grandma can't fantasize. Haha. Look at those thin red lips, I can only imagine how it will feel like when. Is it hot in here or what? Serena blushed as she started fanning herself with her hand fan. Are you all right? Leonard asked Serena as he leaned forward and looked at her worriedly. Serena turned pink when she saw his tired-looking eyes filled with worry. OMG, dear God, you can now take this granny's soul. Just a little nervous for school. Serena answered with a stutter. How long will it take for us to get there? She continued. It usually takes 4 hours to get to school from our home. I assume that we will arrive there at noon, just in time for lunch. Ugh. That voice. Is it husky because he's tired and was trying to get some sleep earlier? Serena can't stop herself from closing her eyes and biting her lips. She felt a sudden flush making her face pink, and since she is wearing an off-shoulder dress, the whole of her décolletage, from her chin down to the top part of her breast, which is visible, also turned pink. This, of course, did not escape Leonard's eyes. He was dumbfounded to see this side of his sister. Now he understands why his adoptive father said that Serena's dress was inappropriate. Being surrounded by beautiful people all the time, Leonard thought himself immune and indifferent to beauties. It is only today that he has proven himself wrong. Growing up with Serena, he knows exactly how beautiful this sister of his is. Their age being only 1 year apart, one would think that they are close. During their childhood, that he himself can't remember much of anymore, he might have acted as her real brother. However, he has been sent to Allegheny at the tender age of 7, then by the age of 12, he learned that he is but an adoptive son. Thus, with this knowledge and the fact that they are of opposite genders, he took it upon himself to keep a certain distance. This led to whatever sibling closeness they have vanish, leaving an awkward atmosphere between them. Serena never acted this way in front of him before, or perhaps he just can't remember much because this is one of the rare times that they spent alone together. He wondered why she is looking the way she does right now. Do you wish to relieve yourself? We can stop by an inn if we get to pass by one. Relieve myself. What? Serena opened her eyes to see Leonard blushing with his face turned to the side looking outside the window. Did he just look at this granny and assume that I need to pee, or worse, that I am constipated? Serena inhaled deeply to calm herself before replying. No need. I'm just, well, giddy because of excitement. Serena straightened herself as she continued in her thought, excitement to jump you. Ha ha ha. Leonard looked back at her, nodded his head, then closed his eyes. Serena closed her eyes as she started thinking about what she can recall about the novel. Some things in this world makes no sense, such as, having the convenience of the modern world when it comes to sanitation, but having to ride a horse-drawn carriage for transportation. Well, what can one expect from a novel written by a teenage girl? If she haven't read the novel, she will never be able to tell the heads and tails of this world. Cell phone and internet is not available here. In her previous life, she cannot imagine living without them anymore. However, life have not always been like that. She once lived without the convenience of high-tech gadgets. So she will just take this as living her childhood days. When it comes to skills and talents, she and the Serena of this world are quite alike. Living her life the way she did previously, she was not able to cultivate any special skills nor did she hide any special knowledge to build a conglomerate or whatever transmigrated girls usually do. Serena decided that she will just enjoy this transmigration experience of hers to fulfill her fantasies. However, she still needs to act with caution. She might live here for a long time and she doesn't really wish to sully her reputation, well, at least not too much. Her fantasy is quite simple really, having the perfect ideal life previously, her only dying regret is only having tasted one single meat all her life. Perhaps the virtue of conservativeness has been ingrained to her too much that even after her late husband's death, bless his soul wherever he might be, she remained true to him. Well, unless you consider the fact that she was already too old for the sins of the flesh by that time, but that's besides the point. Serena peeked at the handsome male in front of her and shook her head. Oh my! What a shame! Too bad that you can only be a spare will. Well, who knows? Perhaps I should start leaving my marks as soon as now. Brother Leonard, she called sweetly waiting for him to respond. Leonard was half asleep when she called him. It was kind of strange for him because Serena doesn't really use that kind of tone with him. Usually, she's a bit formal. Not like the way she is calling him now. He's not sure but, it sounds like the way she calls her parents when she wants to be pampered, but with a hint of flirting. Similar to the girls in school. Maybe he heard wrong, so he chose to ignore her. When Leonard did not respond the second time she called him, Serena leaned forward and touched his forearm. Leonard opened his eyes. Surprised and confused he asked, "Do you need something?" "I need you. Now." "Haha. Is this what you call, brother complex?" "Brother. Will you please sit beside me? Without mother I have no one to lean on, I don't wish to subject my head to the walls of our moving carriage." "Really, Serena?" "Ha ha ha. My God, you should hear yourself." Leonard's eyebrows met, as if thinking about what she said. Her request makes sense, but is that appropriate? Him, an adult male and her, an adult female sitting side by side, huddled together in their carriage. "Please brother. I can move and sit beside you, but I don't like to sit facing the rear, it will make me more dizzy. Serena pleaded using her sweet voice as she tried to pull Leonard towards her. Not trusting his own voice, Leonard nodded his head and moved to sit beside her. Serena quickly hugged Leonard's right arm, feeling his biceps. This is better, brother, let me lean on your shoulder to sleep. Leonard further crunched his eyebrows. This is certainly not appropriate. However, if they were real siblings, then this would be normal. Perhaps, that's what is running in Serena's head right now, and he is the only one having such thoughts. Serena did not wait for his reply, she simply straightened while leaving her left arm looped to his right as she leaned her head on his shoulder. How wonderful this is, he even smells like sandalwood. Ha! The freshness of youth, just like that, she fell asleep until their carriage slowed down upon entering the capital. Leonard, on the other hand, was not able to get a wink of sleep. He can only stare forward without looking at Serena, ignoring the smell of roses and the feel of her left breast brushing against his right arm. TBC. Chapter 5. The second male lead. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Their carriage slowed down as they entered the capital. Serena woke up hearing the noise coming from outside. She slowly detracted herself from Leonard as she shyly glanced at him. Leonard, with his arm free, immediately crossed them in front of his chest and closed his eyes to avoid any awkwardness. Serena wanted to speak, but what if I have bad breath? I just woke up. Serena thought as she opened her silk purse. She took a small tin can containing peppermint rock candies and ate one. Certainly, I'm not the only one with stale saliva. Perhaps I should feed him one. Stopping herself from grinning because of her naughty thoughts, she held one candy with her fingers daintily and hovered it in front of Leonard's face. Brother Leonard. Say ah. She said flirtatiously. Leonard, very much surprised with his sister's sweet as sugar voice, opened his eyes with shock. What the? His back hit against the wall in alarm as Serena tried to feed him the candy. Serena, being persistent, forcefully fed the candy to Leonard. With the candy being pushed to his lips, he had no choice but to open his mouth. For fresh breath, Serena said as she grinned at him. Look at that adorable, shocked face, and when he opened his mouth. Serena, please don't do that again. Not being satisfied with ending it with that, he continued. You need to observe proper propriety, especially between opposite genders, and I only did that because you're my brother. Don't you like me being sweet? Serena replied slyly as she gave him a close-lipped smile, trying to act cutely. It's not that. Leonard frowned. Then I guess it's all right. Changing the topic, she pushed the curtain to look at the streets of the capital. In her past life, she has traveled almost all the famous tourist sites in the world, but she still finds the streets of London as one of the most charming. It seems like they were in Bond Street, or whatever the street is called in this fantasy world. Serena saw shops selling different merchandise through their large glass windows, while herds of strolling shoppers occupied the streets. Leonard looked at his pocket watch, seeing that it was almost noon. He asked, Let's take a break. What do you want for lunch? You. Leonard raised an eyebrow. I mean, what do you recommend? You've been staying here for a while. I bet you have a favorite restaurant here somewhere. Okay, Leonard replied, then he opened a wooden window to tell the driver to make a stop. The driver stopped in front of a seemingly upscale restaurant. Leonard went out first, then offered his hand to help Serena get off the carriage. Then, he instructed the coachman of the other two carriages to go ahead of them. Why not ask them to join us for lunch? I asked them to leave first, so that when we arrive at the school's boarding house, your room will already be prepared. Oh. Serena replied, noting how considerate this brother of hers is. Welcome, Lord Maxwell, it is our pleasure to have you here with us today. Please rise. The receptionist rose and asked them to follow him. Serena noted the formal atmosphere of the restaurant as they were led to a four-cedar table beside the window overlooking the streets. Serena and Leonard both sat by the window facing each other. As they were looking over the menu, they heard a knock. Looking out, Serena saw a man giving Leonard a mock salute. The rays of the afternoon sun shone upon him, giving him an otherworldly glow. He had dark caramel locks that lightly moved with the breeze and lightly tanned sun-kissed skin. As he smiled, a dimple teased his right cheek and his stormy gray eyes twinkled with mischief. He was as handsome as sin that Serena had to cover her face with the menu to hide her heated cheeks. Seeing Serena with her head burrowed behind the menu, the man outside pointed at Serena while wiggling his brows at Leonard. Leonard furrowed his brows and shook his head. Not far behind the man outside, he saw his other friend who just finished talking to their coachman smile and wave at him. Soon, the pair entered the restaurant. "Serena, please wait a moment, I'll just meet my friends at the reception." Not sure if she already recovered from her blush, Serena pretended to seriously look at the menu as she nodded her head. "All right." Leonard stood up from the table and approached his friends. "Hey Leonard, did we disturb your date?" his friend teased. Leonard shook his head as he explained, "No Charlie, I'm not on a date. I am with my sister. She will be joining us in school this year." "Is that so? Then you won't mind me and Kylo joining you for lunch, right? It's lonely having only a man as company for lunch. Also, stop calling me Charlie, you sound like my mother." "Not that I want to disturb your date Leonard, but it is indeed sad only having Charlie here, as company." Kylo seconded as he emphasized on the name Charlie. "Let me ask for Serena's permission first." Leonard went back to talk to Serena, but his friends followed right behind him, leaving him no choice but to introduce them. Serena meanwhile was busy connecting the dots. She realized that the man earlier must be Charlton Daniel, the only son of the Duke of Suffolk, and the second male lead in the novel. From what she can recall, Charlton was a sunny and friendly playboy before meeting the heroine. She felt bad for him when the heroine seemingly led him on and later chose Geoffrey. Just like any SML, he is always second best in comparison to the male lead except for his slightly more handsome face. In the novel, he always supported the heroine behind the shadows. He was not a show-off, but his feelings were true. In the end, he let go of the heroine to have her happily ever after with Geoffrey while he never recovered from his broken heart. He spent the rest of his life being a bachelor. Poor soul. But anyways, the description in the novel gave him no justice at all. "I think my knickers just fell when I saw him make that mock salute. I will never understand why teenage girls like Ice Cube male leads when there's a perfectly fine Adonis right beside him. Well, whatever, he will make a wonderful first boyfriend. Based on his character, he will have no hard feelings when we break up. Also, I can even save him from his wretched fate of having to spend the rest of his life in broken-heartedness later because the female lead will never choose him." TBC. Chapter 6. Zeroing on her first target. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Serena was so absorbed in her own thoughts that she only realized Leonard was standing near her when he called her attention. "Serena, may I introduce you to my friends? Also, would it be all right for them to join us for lunch?" Serena nodded her head. Seeing the two men, she stood up as Leonard pulled the chair to help her. Earlier she noted that Leonard was the tallest amongst them. The other two were about the same height, reaching Leonard's eyebrow. "Charlton, Kylo, this is my lovely sister, Serena Lillian Maxwell." "Good afternoon Lady Maxwell, I am Kylo Lewis, the second Prince of Allegheny. It is a pleasure to finally meet you." Kylo introduced himself as he nodded at her. "So this is Kylo. He's a cutie with his silver hair and purple eyes, but not my type." In the novel, he and Charlton were the closest in their group due to their same interest with the fairer sex. He was also interested with the female lead because of her feistiness. Serena curtsied in return, then gave him a close-lipped smile. After, she turned to look at Charlton, batted her eyelashes once, then gave him a coy smile. Charlton was slightly surprised. He was no saint to not know the meaning of a smile like that. Deeming what he saw as impossible, he composed and introduced himself. "Lady Maxwell, I am Charlton Heinrich Daniel, it is a pleasure to meet you," he said, and then bowed slightly. Serena curtsied in return. "The pleasure is all mine, Your Highness," then added Lord Daniel, coquettishly. Meanwhile, Leonard, who was standing beside her, did not saw her facial expressions. "My kind sister accepted your insistence in joining us for lunch. Come, take a seat." Leonard helped Serena first, then sat beside her. It missed his eyes how Kylo elbowed Charlton, whispering, "She likes you," then pushed him to take the seat in front of Serena. The waiter approached them for their order. While waiting for the food to arrive, Kylo opened the conversation. "So, Lady Maxwell, are you excited for school? If Leonard can't tour you around, our dear friend, Charlton here, will gladly do so. By the way, just call me Kylo," Kylo teased, for which he received a glare from Leonard. "Thank you for mentioning that, Prince Kylo. Lord Daniel, will you kindly do so?" Serena said while looking expectantly at Charlton. "Brother, Prince Kylo just mentioned that as a courtesy. No need to be angsty," Serena said with a pout. Did she not get what Kylo was implying? Charlton escorting her unchaperoned. Leonard thought while furrowing his brows as he looked at her. Of course, Serena understood what Kylo meant. It's just that, she has already zeroed in on Charlton as her first target, and letting them have their alone time will be perfect. Charlton meanwhile can't take his eyes away from Serena. Sitting in front of her, he couldn't help himself but be mesmerized by her beauty. He has seen a lot of beautiful girls, but this is the first time that he has been affected this way. From the arch of her eyebrows to the way she pouted her kissable lips, she was perfection. He had to look elsewhere to stop himself from wanting to kiss her. However, he made the mistake of looking below her face and saw her pale décolletage. Feeling flushed, he drank the cold water in front of him. He can't believe that he just checked out his friend's sister. Kylo elbowed Charlton slightly, and when he turned to look at him, he wiggled his eyebrows and smirked. As if telling him that he saw everything. Leonard cleared his throat. "Be that as it may, you should be wary of men asking for your time. You might be taken advantage of. But they are your friends." Serena wanted to laugh at Leonard's overprotectiveness. "Besides, it is me they should be careful of. Especially because they are my friends that I know these two," Leonard wanted to say but stopped himself. Saying that these two are rakes will only make his own character questionable. Leonard, knowing that his advice was not really absorbed by his sister, just looked at the boys in front of him pleadingly. "So, what are you looking forward to in school?" Kylo asked. "Nothing much really. I just want to enjoy the times of my youth. Like having your hot friend here as my first boyfriend." "I thought meeting a certain someone would be your answer." Kylo continued teasingly. "Who?" "Crown Prince Jeffrey." The two boys completely forgot that Serena is Jeffrey's fiancée until she mentioned his name. Now that she mentioned it, guilt immediately ate the two boys. It was last summer that their friend, Jeffrey, started to act strangely. Although Jeffrey never told them about it, since he just got engaged, they both assumed that it must be because of his fiancée. They never told it to Leonard, knowing that his sister is Jeffrey's fiancée. In fact, they helped Jeffrey hide it. During their schooling last year, Jeffrey was busy with what they assume were love letters. Clearly, their friend was besotted. Just yesterday, they saw him touring a brown-haired girl in campus. Although it was from afar, their friend looked happy and comfortable. They assumed that she is also the reason why Jeffrey did not join them in their excursion today. Charlton clenched his fist. Looking at Serena, he figured that, clearly, she was not the girl Jeffrey was with yesterday. He doesn't know why he feels this way, but his heart aches just thinking how she will feel if she finds out that her fiancé might be cheating on her. He doesn't agree with what Jeffrey is doing. He needs to talk with him later. Although he and Kylo were rakes, they were not yet engaged to be married. Meanwhile, Kylo was more guilty. It was not only now that he figured that it was not Serena Jeffrey was corresponding with. However, he thought that since Leonard's sister is the end game, he can just let Jeffrey enjoy this time. He thought that whatever Jeffrey is feeling now may come to pass. Kylo laughed awkwardly as he replied. "Oh. So. Are you excited to meet him?" "Well, I don't know. I never met him before and he never took it upon himself to visit. I know his character though. He really hates the fact that his father, the king, announced his engagement without consulting him at court in spring last year. It made him feel like his whole life has been planned out for him, stifling whatever freedom he has. Thus, when he met the female lead last summer, he found his breather. Well, whatever. Don't take it to heart, Serena, Jeffrey is just busy. Being the crown prince, he has a lot in his hands. We have been friends for so long, and I can vouch that he is a good man," Leonard defended his friend. Serena just nodded with a smile. She knows the truth, but Leonard here is completely innocent. "I understand. I just hope that he will treat me kindly. Well, at least kindly enough to let me break our engagement first, or if not, at least not humiliate me when he breaks it, come to think of it. Would I appeal to Charlton more if I were to paint myself as a damsel in distress after my broken engagement?" Meanwhile, guilt is eating Kylo and Charlton more. Thankfully, lunch arrived, signaling the end of their conversation. Just like that, lunch ended. Leonard settled the bill despite the other two's insistence. As they parted their ways, the boys had one thing in mind. Jeffrey was a very lucky man, and he doesn't even know it. TBC. Chapter 7. Arriving at the school. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon arriving at the gates of Windsor School for Nobles, their carriage was halted to a stop. "Let us go down the carriage first, the guards need to check it before entering," Leonard explained. "Good afternoon, Lord Maxwell, and welcome back. Please wait for a moment as we check your carriage," the captain of the guard said as he bowed his head. "All right, Sir Pierre. By the way, may I introduce you to my sister, Serena?" "Good afternoon, Lady Maxwell, it is a pleasure to meet you. Welcome to Windsor, I hope that you will have a pleasant time here in school," Pierre said as he bowed and smiled at Serena. "Thank you, kind sir. I do hope so too," Serena curtsied and replied. While waiting for the guards to finish checking, Serena observed the school surroundings. The road they passed through must be the main street as it led straight to the huge gates of their school. From where she was standing, she can see that there were also side streets with shops that looked like the cobbled streets of York. There were some young nobles walking and some in groups shopping. She noted that there were a lot of guards surrounding the area. The school and its perimeter must be the most guarded place in the whole kingdom, as it is where children of royalties and nobles from all over the empire congregate. Not long after, Leonard called her attention to re-enter their carriage. Sitting in front of her, he started the conversation. "Do you want to go out later?" Leonard asked. He saw her curious eyes earlier. "Can we? The gates of the school will close at 9 in the evening today. It is still 2 in the afternoon now, so we still have time after you settle in." "All right. Are we allowed to go out of the school every day?" Leonard shook his head. "No, we are only allowed to go out on weekends. Tomorrow, there will be an assembly in the morning to officially start the school year." Bedodem Serena nodded as she looked out of the window. The school ground was huge with perfectly manicured lawns. "Here is the school dormitory for ladies," Leonard said as their carriage stopped in front of a castle-like building. "I will need to leave you here as the school dormitory for men is on the other side. What time should I come back to fetch you?" "You can come back after 3 hours. I'm a little tired from our long journey. All right. Do you wish to walk around the school before we go out later? If time allows. Serena replied as she smiled at him. Leonard nodded as he went down the carriage again to help her. Serena blushed as she held his hand. What a gentleman, she said in her mind for the nth time. Welcoming her outside is Beatrice, her maid. Please help your lady settle in. Leonard instructed Beatrice, then he faced Serena saying, I'll see you later. Before he left. My lady, I already got your key card and prepared your room. Thankfully, you don't need to share with another noble lady like the others. Beatrice chattered as they entered. Serena silently looked around the lobby as they were greeted with a curtsy by a lady in her 40s. Good afternoon, Lady Maxwell, I am Nora, the head receptionist of the ladies' dormitory. Shall I walk you to your room as I explain the house rules? Thank you, Madam Nora. That would be most helpful. Serena replied. Please follow me. The dormitory was rectangular in shape with an open courtyard in the middle. As they walked the hall beside the courtyard, they came across young ladies who stared at Serena. Whenever she met the eyes of other ladies, they were friendly enough to smile at her. Serena knows reciprocity, so she always smiled back. First of, curfew time is at 10 in the evening. We have a monitoring team that checks at 9 in the evening to ensure that you are in your room. Thus, if you return after 9 p.m., you need to notify the receptionist in charge to avoid causing unnecessary alarm. Second, guests and visitors, except for immediate family members, are only allowed in the lobby and in the courtyard here on our right. Third, smoking is not allowed within the premises. The rooms are equipped with sensitive smoke detectors and alarms. Lastly, any major acts of misconduct, such as use of illegal drugs, will immediately lead to expulsion. After climbing a flight of stairs, they arrived at room number 218. Beatrice tapped the keycard on the keyless doorknob. If you lose your key, you may request a copy at the reception at an additional cost. That is all, thank you very much and welcome to Windsor School for Nobles. Nora finished as she made a curtsy and smiled at Serena. Do I need to give her tip or something? It feels like she's a bellboy in a hotel. Serena thought as she looked at Beatrice. Beatrice, taking the hint, took out a small pouch and handed it to Nora. Nora smiled wider as she took in the weight of the pouch. Thank you again, she said as she left. Where did you get that? Serena asked as they entered the room. So she was indeed expecting a tip. Do I have cash here in my bag? Haven't thought of that earlier, as Leonard only handed a card in the restaurant. Duchess Celine handed it to me yesterday. I still have about 2 pouches here and about 20 in my luggage. She instructed me to give it to those you wish to reward. Have you given out a lot since you arrived? Serena continued as she looked around. The room turned out to look like a grand suite in a hotel. It has its own living room with a sala set, a dining room with a 6-seater dining table, and a modern-looking kitchen with an island counter. From when we arrived, I gave out 2. They were the ones who helped carry our luggage. I apologize for not informing you ahead, my lady. Oh. It's all right. Serena replied as she opened the door that led to her bedroom. I already stored your dresses in the wardrobe. Also, I already gave out your measurement to the school seamstress for your uniform. They told me to pick it up on Friday. So we do have school uniform. Serena thought as she walked around the bedroom. It was smaller than her room in the ducal house but did not lose to its charm. There was a bathroom inside the room which has a bathtub. To the right of the bed is a big window overlooking the school's lawn with its curtain open. My lady, do you wish me to help you change your clothes to be more comfortable before the Lord picks you up? Serena nodded as Beatrice picked a chemise for her change into. Beatrice then proceeded to close the curtain before helping Serena change. Thank you, Beatrice. I will just take a short nap. Please wake me up after an hour. Serena instructed. Yes, my lady, I will be in my room located behind the kitchen if ever you need me. Beatrice said as Bowed then left the room. Serena looked around the room one more time before she laid herself on the bed. While trying to get some sleep, she thought of the novel in comparison to what she is experiencing now. Rianne, granddaughter of Serena, did not really talk about the school in detail. She focused more on the blooming love between the ML and FL rather than the daily life of the villainess. However, she was sure that some fine details has already changed since she arrived. First, although it was not mentioned if Serena had lunch with Leonard going to school, she was sure that Serena's first conversation with the SML, Charlton, in the novel was on one of the school parties where she poured red wine on the female lead. It was a memorable scene, that's why she actually remembers it in detail. Serena was being escorted by Jeffrey at a dinner party held in honor of the school's founding. It was not mentioned how she was dressed, but it was said that Emily was wearing a white dress making her look like an angel. Jeffrey saw that she was being escorted by Charlton, and with his jealousy, he left Serena without an escort after they entered the ball. At that time, Emily was trying to walk away from Jeffrey because she knew that what they were doing was wrong. She found out that he is the crown prince after his opening speech during the school assembly. However, fate seems to be putting the two of them together. They joined the same clubs, then, being top female student of her batch after the preliminary exam, she also became their year's female representative, joining the student council where Jeffrey was the president. At first, she was already ready to forgive him, but what hurt her more is that Jeffrey pretended not to know her in front of the other members of the council. After that meeting, she was so angry with him that since then, she has been avoiding him. When she arrived and took a peek, she only heard Emily confessing her love for Jeffrey and then saw them hugging. She was so angry that all she saw was red. At this point, Serena was already feeling low. She was envious of Emily for being the school flower while she was labeled as the blonde bimbo behind her back. She did not understand why things turned out the way they did, but her consolation is that she will one day be queen, and everyone will have to bow to her. With this, she invested all her love and hope on Jeffrey. She now understands the importance of one's position in society. She is the only biological daughter of a duke, but she knows that she, as a woman, cannot inherit the dukedom. So to ensure her position, securing her marriage with the crown prince is a must. She did not care anymore if Jeffrey does not or will not love her in the future. What is important is to first get rid of whatever is blocking her way towards the queen's seat. Thus, this scene began her blackening. Serena wanted to confront the two, but she doesn't want to lose Jeffrey. So she decided to lead Emily's escort to them instead. Charlton was holding 2 wine glasses while looking for Emily when Serena approached him. He has seen Serena a couple of times, but it never ceased to amaze him how beautiful she was. However, he knows that she was the forbidden fruit, so he kept his distance. He never even talked to her before. "Good evening, Lord Daniel. I know we haven't been introduced yet, but I am Serena Lillian Maxwell, the fiancée of your friend, Crown Prince Jeffrey, and the sister of Leonard." "Good evening, Lady Maxwell, it is a pleasure to meet you. What may I do for you?" Charlton asked, surprised and confused on why she's talking to him. "Will you please help me find my fiancé? I can't seem to find him." Seeing that Emily is not around, he nodded his head. Not wanting to look like an idiot walking while holding 2 glasses of wine, he handed one to Serena. "All right. Please have one." Serena received the half-filled glass with a smile as she led him towards the balcony. However, before she can make Charlton catch the cheating pair red-handed, Emily already entered the hall. Jeffrey on the other hand was nowhere to be seen. Serena was so livid that when Emily came closer and made a curtsy, she couldn't think straight and directly poured the red wine on her head. The whole ballroom turned silent as she turned to look at Charlton. "I hope you will have better taste in women someday. Thank you for your time, and for the glass of wine," Serena said as she curtsied and left the ball. Charlton can only gape. TBC. Chapter 8. The necklace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Serena was awoken by the knocks of Beatrice as she heard her say, "My lady, should I help you in preparing for your dinner with Lord? What time is it?" Serena thought as she rubbed her head. "Come in." Beatrice came in as she opened the light while Serena looked at the clock. It was already 4 p.m. "I'm sorry to just have awoken you now, you were in deep sleep earlier." "It's all right," Serena replied as she stood up and walked to the bathroom to freshen herself. After, Beatrice helped her fix her hair and clothes. She was just about ready when the sound of a doorbell was heard. "I'll get it, my lady." Serena nodded her head. When Beatrice went out, she opened her purse. She forgot to check for money earlier. She saw that inside her purse was a tin can of candy, a handkerchief, a porcelain jar containing rouge, a pocket of tissue, and a thin wallet. Inside the wallet, she found her identification card, an unsigned credit card with her printed name, and some paper bills. Well, it seems like her granddaughter was too lazy to think of having different currency. It is just the same as the one in the modern world. Curious, she looked at the pouch her mother gave to Beatrice to give out. She asked one from Beatrice earlier to check. When she opened it, she saw a silver ingot and note which says, "Thank you, and please continue taking care of my daughter. Duchess Celine Maxwell." Serena felt her eyes well with tears. She suddenly felt nostalgic as what the Duchess did was like what her mother does when she was in school. In her previous life, her mother used to give gifts and letters to her teachers during Christmas every year. She's quite positive that that was one of the reasons why she became the teacher's pet. "My lady, Lord Leonard is already in the lobby waiting." Serena dabbed her tears with the handkerchief as she put back all her things in her purse. "I'm ready," she said as she stood up from the vanity. As the season is changing, the weather is cooler in the evening. Thus, Serena changed her gown to one that has high neckline and long sleeves. As she went down the stairs with Beatrice in tow, she noticed some of the ladies giggling and whispering. What else could they be giggling and whispering about? They must have seen Leonard. No doubt that he must be popular. However, it was Charlton that Serena first saw when she entered the lobby. He was wearing eyeglasses this time as he read through a newspaper. It was merely a second, but she felt her heart stutter. At this angle, he looked similar to her late husband in their younger days. "If I knew that my target will be joining us tonight, I would have worn a better-looking dress," Serena thought as she noticed Leonard approaching her. Beatrice curtsied then left. Meanwhile she saw Kylo sitting on the opposite chair in front of Charlton. "I'm sorry, Serena, but these two insisted on joining us again. They should have missed you all summer," Serena said as they walked towards the two. "Not really, we just want to keep a beautiful lady company," Kylo interjected as he and Charlton stood up from their sitting position and faced her. "Don't believe him," Charlton spoke. "That I'm a beautiful lady?" Serena asked Charlton as she raised her left eyebrow while smiling at him. "No, not that, I mean. You are very beautiful," Charlton stuttered as he blushed. Kylo laughed. His friend was usually smooth with the ladies, but in a span of a few hours, he became a blushing and stuttering besotted fool in front of Leonard's sister. "Kylo, if you keep on teasing my sister, I would deem it better to leave you behind," Leonard said as he looked at his two friends. Just kidding, just kidding. Sorry, Lady Maxwell. We just haven't met Leonard the whole of summer, and we also wanted to have dinner outside." "Oh. It's all right, however, I wish to look around town as it is my first time here. Would that be fine with you?" "Yes, of course, don't mind us. Let's go," Leonard announced as they walked out. As it is quite a long walk from the dormitory to the gates, the four of them rode separate carriages. Leonard with Serena, Kylo with Charlton. "What's that about Charlie? You look like a blushing boy who just hit puberty and saw a girl for the first time." "I was just caught by surprise." Charlton replied as he tried to hide his red face. Oh no. You bloody fancy her. Stop that, Kylo, we just met her a few hours ago, and besides, we both know that she is engaged to Jeffrey O.org. You better tell yourself that. Jeffrey, that fool, whatever was he thinking? When they arrived at the school gates, they all went down from their carriages to walk towards town. Serena and Leonard was in front while Kylo and Charlton walked behind them. Like any other girl, Serena loved shopping. She quickly forgot about the boys and just enjoyed herself looking at the trinkets, clothes, books and whatever it is that the shops have to offer. The three boys followed her around like lost puppies. They, on the other hand, never enjoyed shopping. It was 6:30 in the evening when Leonard, carrying everything Serena shopped, asked her to stop for dinner. Kylo and Charlton were not carrying anything as Leonard insisted on carrying everything himself. It would not be proper to have other men carry his sister's things, he insisted. They were about to enter the restaurant when Serena saw a Tiffany Company jewelry store right beside it. Her eyes widened in surprise as she excitedly said, "Please go ahead and order for me, Brother Leonard. I will just look here first," she said as she pointed at the store. Leonard was about to respond when Kylo pulled him inside the restaurant. Kylo recognized Jeffrey with a girl from afar as he signaled Charlton warn him. Charlton quickly walked away to chase Jeffrey but saw him riding a plain carriage. Hopefully, the next they see him will be at the assembly tomorrow. Charlton walked back to the restaurant. Passing the jewelry store, he saw Serena through the glass window. He noted that her eyes were wide with wonder looking at a jewelry laid in front of her. The middle-aged sales lady was obviously asking her to try it on, but she shook her head as she smiled. The doorbell rang and the sales lady and Serena turned to see Charlton entering. "Lord Daniel. I'm already done here. Let's go," Serena asked as she smiled at him. Charlton nodded his head, noting the way Serena's eyes lingered on the necklace before they left. Serena casted one last look at the necklace. She wanted it, but knew that it is too much. Even when she was kinda rich in her last lifetime, she would never be able to afford it. Also, she recalled that it would later be the engagement gift of Jeffrey to Emily as the sign of his unwavering love. Serena walked with Charlton to the restaurant. When they entered, they saw Kylo and Leonard seated at the corner. "Lady Maxwell, please go ahead, I will be back shortly." Serena, not wanting to pry, lest he be turned off, nodded her head. Leonard asked her to sit beside him. "Why does it look like you're brooding?" Serena asked Leonard, who obviously is in a bad mood. "It's nothing. Actually, your brother here is angry that we left you at Tiffany's on your own. Though I am glad that you worry about me so, I'm not a child, Brother Leonard. That's what I told him. Besides, we are in the safest place in the whole empire. By the way, where's Charlton? He left after he sent me here and said he will come back shortly." "I see. By the way, I hope you like risotto. I took the liberty of ordering for everyone. It's my treat for tonight," Kylo said with a smug grin. Meanwhile, Charlton went back to Tiffany's. He wanted to see what Serena was looking at earlier. Apparently, the jewelry that she seemed to covet was an intricately designed bib necklace inspired by the idea of abstract flower petals made of platinum and inlaid with diamonds. He can already imagine her wearing it. Nobody else will suit the necklace more than her. The sales lady's face was about to split due to the wide grin that she is sporting. Charlton can only awkwardly smile back. He can't believe that the first time he buys jewelry, it is for a lady he just met a few hours ago who also already has a fiancé. If you imagine that bad, he doesn't even have any idea on how he will give it to her. Even worse, to ensure that his parents won't find out, it was his own lifetime savings which he used for that necklace. In fact, his savings only amounted to 450 grand. This amount of money is no joke, not many nobles will earn it in their whole lifetime. He still had to pay the balance in installment for a year. It was the most expensive single purchase he ever made in his whole 19 years of life. It costed a whooping 500 grand. Charlton's hand was shaking as he signed the bill. After this, he will need to live a frugal life for the rest of the year. However, looking at the velvet box containing the necklace, he felt something akin to pride. "Milord, if the lady doesn't agree to marry you after giving her that, I will." TBC. Chapter 9. The Assembly. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. "What's that?" Kylo asked as Charlton sat beside him. "Something my mother asked me to pick up." Charlton lied with a straight face. Kylo just raised his brow while Serena smiled at him. The food was already served and so they ate in silence. After dinner, they walked back to school as their carriages were waiting for them. They all sent Serena back to her dorm first before going back to theirs. "I won't be able to accompany you much starting tomorrow, but I will try to make time whenever you need me. I'll see you in the morning at the assembly." "Good night, Serena," Leonard said as he walked with her to the entrance of the dorm. "Thank you for today, Brother Leonard, good night," Serena said, then she waved at Charlton and Kylo who were standing in front of their carriage waiting for her to get in. It was 7:45 in the morning when Serena arrived in the assembly hall. As she was recalling the details in the novel, she observed the hall filled with students. The area was divided into 3 sections. On the right and in the middle were students wearing uniform. The boys were wearing black-colored 3-piece suit with white undershirt and plaid burgundy tie, while the ladies were wearing burgundy-plaid skirt of varying lengths, matching ribbon, white undershirt, knee-high socks and black coat. On the left were students in civilian clothing. Obviously the girls looked eager to wear the uniform while the boys can't take their eyes off the ladies in uniform. Meanwhile, at the very front there was a platform where a teacher was standing. Not seeing any familiar face, Serena walked to the area for first-year students. The Empire has 8 kingdoms, think of it as ASEAN, which has 8 member countries. The premise was almost the same as each kingdom has autonomy and none of them were under the rulership of the other. Windsor, though, is one of the, if not the richest kingdom amongst the 8. This of course, raised the status of nobles of the kingdom. That is why in the novel, although there are also princesses in school, Serena's status was considered special. Being the only biological daughter of a very rich duke, one can only imagine how large her dowry is. And as if that were not enough, she was also the most beautiful girl in the empire. If not because of her reputation and mental illness after the thing with Jeffrey, she would have easily been the most desirable woman. "All students please settle. We will begin the school assembly in 5 minutes," the teacher said as more students filled the hall. Serena stood amongst the first-year students. The ladies were all keeping to themselves, smiling shyly at one another, while the boys, most of them already knew each other so they had their own cliques. Looking at the entrance, Serena saw Charlton and Kylo entering. Charlton and her eyes met, so she waved at him while smiling sweetly. Charlton blushed and waved back. Kylo, seeing Charlton waving, followed his eyes and saw Serena. "With a chick like that." Kylo sighed as he continued, "I have no idea why Jeffrey is trading a pearl for fish. Hey Charlie, stop smiling like that, it creeps me out. If I didn't know you better, I'd wager that you'll soon be a Lancelot wooing his Guinevere." "Not funny," Charlton replied as they walked to where the second years were at. All the students straightened when the platform was filled by the school's dignitaries. "Welcome and welcome back to Windsor School for Nobles. Today, we welcome 128 new students to our school. We also welcome back the 112 second-year students, and 98 senior students in their final year. Please let us give ourselves a round of applause," the teacher said as all the students clapped. Afterwards, he introduced the school principal to give his welcoming remarks. "Good morning everyone. It is with great pleasure that I welcome all of you today. As we all know, our school was founded 150 years ago after our forefathers signed the regional cooperation between the 8 kingdoms, Windsor, Allegheny, Russo, Giulio, Militia, Gia, Balaam, and Horus. This school was built upon their hope that the time spent in this school will strengthen the ties amongst us as we grow. Serena tuned out whatever the principal was saying as she saw Leonard standing with a group of students near the platform. Beside him was a black-haired man who Serena believed must be Crown Prince Geoffrey, her fiancé. The mic was again given to the teacher as he asked the student council to climb up the stairs. Now, let us welcome the student council headed by Crown Prince Geoffrey William of Windsor. The group of 8 students climbed the platform as the teacher gave the mic to Geoffrey. Thank you very much for the warm introduction, sir, but please call me Geoffrey. Good morning, everyone. I am Geoffrey William, a second year and the student council president. With me are the members of the student council, Artemis Phillip, a senior who is also our vice president, Diana Murphy, a senior who is our secretary, Mary Thompson, a second year and our treasurer. We also have Diether James and Joan Kira as the senior representatives, Leonard Maxwell and Gina Oslo as the second year representatives with us. As you may have noticed, I did not attach a title to our names. That is because in this school, we are all students. We are equals and our superiors are our teachers and the school staff/dignitaries. The second year and senior students are aware of this, but I know that this is a first for the freshmen. Please keep that in mind as you tread your life as students at this school. Other than that, I believe that you will all enjoy your learning experience here. After the preliminary exam, 2 freshman students of opposite genders will be tasked to join the council, and I, together with our members, will be happy to welcome you then. Geoffrey said as he placed his right hand on his left chest and bowed. What a pretentious SOB. Serena thought as she observed the male lead of the novel. He may look like a prince, and sound humble in his speech especially with the bow, but in the novel, there is no man who is more hypocritical with a hero complex than him. He actually only implements the social equality when it comes to the female lead, but for the others and for himself. Other than allowing everyone to use his first name, his attitude is, sorry, Crown Prince here. Serena thought as she rolled her eyes. Well, whatever, it's not like I'll be seeing him a lot. In the novel, Serena introduced herself, and after that, he avoided her like a plague. Besides, he will be too busy with the female lead. Now where is she? Serena didn't have to look for long, she just had to follow Geoffrey's eyes to spot a brown-haired girl in front of the line. Said girl has her head bowed. She cannot see her clearly as there were people in front of her. Thank you for that, Geoffrey. And so with this, we now end our welcoming ceremony. The second year and senior students, as your class and schedules have been distributed the day before, please proceed to your classroom. Meanwhile, for the freshmen, please follow me. The students went out of the assembly hall, which also doubles as the school auditorium, in an orderly manner. Before leaving, Serena's eyes met with Leonard as they smiled at each other. Geoffrey was walking with him but did not turn to her direction. Her eyes then went to follow the leaving second-year students. Kylo has his right arm slung across a girl's shoulder, while Charlton seems to be troubled with a girl trying to cling to his arm. Charlton saw her looking at him as he shook his head, as if trying to say, this has nothing to do with me. Serena raised her brow then turned to follow the group of freshmen. We are now in the east wing of our school. Here on the ground floor is the school cafeteria, on the second floor are club rooms, and the third floor has the school library. You may walk around the school during your free time later. The teacher said as he continued to walk. Here on the west wing are the classrooms. The ground floor is for the freshmen. The second for the second years, and the top floor for the seniors. As there are 128 of you enrolled this year, the school has divided you into 5 sections. All female students are in class 1 and 2, while all male students are in class 3 to 5. Kindly look for your own names, enter your classroom, take a sit, and wait for your teachers for further instructions. If you do not have any questions, then I will leave you amongst yourselves. the teacher said. Luckily for Serena, she already knew that she will be in section 1 as said in the novel. So she just looked at the list to double-check. She also confirmed that she will be in the same class as the female lead. Serena was the third person to enter the class. She quickly chose a sit at the middle of the row beside the window. Although she has no plans on being the goody two-shoes teacher's pet, she doesn't want to be labeled as the bimbo like in the novel. Soon after, Serena saw the female lead, Emily Evans, entering the class. Today, she was wearing a neat yellow dress, nothing fancy but it suited her. Her long brown hair was braided to the side, and her head was bowed. She looked a little upset, perhaps due to finding out that Jeffrey is their kingdom's crown prince with a fiancée. She sat on the second seat in the middle row of the class. Serena later noticed that the class has been filled and there were no more students outside. Afterwards, the teacher came in. Serena already knew who their teacher will be based on the novel, but it is still funny to see the students being starstruck. Okay class, I am Ms. Grace Astoria, your homeroom teacher for this year. Chapter 10. Homeroom. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Their homeroom teacher, Grace Astoria, was a princess from the kingdom of Russo. She was directly hired as a teacher after she graduated in Windsor 2 years ago. Her achievement of becoming the youngest and first female teacher in the most prestigious school in the whole empire made her a legendary figure in their generation. She was beautiful, smart, upright, and fair-minded. All the students look up to her and all the girls idolize her. As you noticed, classes for first years are divided by gender. Obviously, the reason for this is some archaic gender inequality bull. However, I do see its importance. Unlike the male populace, we girls only received home schooling before entering this school at the age of 18. Thus, there is indeed a need to correctly assess the knowledge and capability of each and every one of you. Grace said while raising her left brow, looking intimidating. Serena noted the class being silent, taking every word in. You may feel a bit intimidated now, I can see. But fear not, for that is the reason I am here. I know that you all were educated differently, but keep to heart if you may my advice, that education is not merely the learning of the facts, but the training of the mind to think. And then she smiled. The students were all speechless in awe. Serena had to smile with the ingenuity. She read that line in the novel before, but hearing it herself is another experience entirely. Now, as you all heard, in this school, your title is moot. You all will need to address each other by name if you're close, Miss or Mr. plus the surname if you're not. However, in this class, I want to harness solidarity. So I ask everyone to call each other at least by name. By the way, as this is the first day of class, let us introduce ourselves. I'll start and let the girl in the front seat next to the window continue. Again, I am Grace Astoria from the kingdom of Russo. Just call me teacher or Sister Grace. Don't call me Ma'am Grace, it makes me feel so old. Grace said exaggeratedly as the students laughed. I am Kelly May Roberts from the kingdom of Balaam. Please call me Kelly or Keel. The girl stood from her seat and said shyly. I am Millicent Stark from the kingdom of Horus. Please call me Millie. I am Serena Lillian Maxwell from yours truly, you may all call me Serena. Serena said as she turned to everyone, smiled winningly, and bowed. Well, I need to at least make everyone like me, unlike the previous Serena, I do intend to enjoy my time here. She thought, recalling how frigid novel Serena initially was. The students continued to introduce themselves, and when it was Emily's turn, although she was down, she still introduced herself confidently. After everyone was done, Teacher Grace gave more inspiring speech, and then gave instructions and guidelines regarding their schooling this year. Unlike before when women of upper society were only taught how to please their husbands through learning how to sew, cook, sing, dance, and play an instrument, we are given opportunities to grasp more or even try to reach further heights. I am not saying that learning those is of little worth, but knowledge is power. I always believed that women should also be given the same right and access to education as men. And it is gratifying that now, you and I are part of the first institution to give chance to this sentiment. As part of the first batch of female graduates of our school, I must say through experience that learning more is not just that. This more, in terms of knowledge, is the key that opens the door for us women to be what we want to be. So I implore you all to seize this opportunity granted to you. As first-year students, it may be difficult for you to adjust with the schedule and load that will be given. Some may be encountering most of the subjects for the first time. But as they say, be brave to travel the unknown path, and learn what you are capable of. Grace said as she turned to start writing on the board using chalk. As you can see on the board is your schedule. This year from Mondays to Thursdays, you will be learning 7 core academic subjects which are mathematics, history, reading, biology, philosophy, economics, and geography. In case you are asking, all first years have the same subjects, only that the lessons to be given your male counterparts are more advanced. While Fridays are dedicated to extracurricular activities aimed for socializing. Ugh! All those subjects will surely give me a headache. In the novel, all those were just said in passing, but here, I have to actually study all of them again. Hoo-hoo. Hopefully, I will be able to recall all those subjects I learned in college and graduate school. Alas, with this strict schedule, when will I get the chance to make waves with my love life? Oh. Fridays is the time when all students get to socialize. There are 6 sports activities to choose from in the morning: fencing, polo, swimming, croquet, archery and chess. In the afternoon, students need to choose amongst activities related to arts, which are sculpting, painting, calligraphy, music, and dance. I remember that Charlton took fencing and music during his second year. I have no plans of joining the fencing class, but music will be okay. Although I am not a prodigy, I can still sing and play the piano, well, at least a little. Serena thought as she continued to listen to Teacher Grace. All subjects from Monday to Thursday will be held in this classroom with your classmates. While on Fridays, the venue, and the people you will be socializing with would depend on the class you choose. For your information, let me add that this year, aside from being your homeroom teacher, I will be teaching you economics. Do you have any question? None, the class said in unison. All right. As it is your first day, the school is lenient, and no lesson will be given today. As there are no questions, I will be dismissing all of you early. Use the remainder of the day to explore the school. Tomorrow, I will ask everyone to provide the name of the clubs they will be joining on Fridays. Thank you very much and have a pleasant day ahead. Goodbye. Teacher Grace said as she smiled to the class. All the students stood up to the side of their table and gave a curtsy. Goodbye, Teacher Grace, everyone said. Funny how everyone just did that. As if they rehearsed it. Serena thought as Teacher Grace left them. After Grace left, the girls smiled tentatively at each other. Almost everyone just met each other for the first time. Most of the students decided to talk to those who sat near them. TBC.